How the Chicago Bears can build around quarterback Justin Fields through the 2022 NFL Draft. Let's talk about it. What is going on, yo? Faiz Sports Talk back at it with another video talking, of course, some NFL here to talk about the Chicago Bears. So if you're a Bears fan, make sure to go ahead and hit that big red subscribe button down below. Make sure to follow me on all my social media platforms. Guys, as always, hit the bell icon so you're notified every time I drop a new video. Let's get into it. All right, people, the NFL Draft is coming up, and it is time to talk about what the Bears can and maybe should do in this year's draft. Now, NFL free agency, it's come and gone. I know technically people are still getting signed, but for the most part, all the big names, or most of them, have signed, and it's clear, right? This is not a criticism. This is just straight facts. The Chicago Bears did not elect to build around Justin Fields through free agency, right? They did not sign any sort of high impact, if you will, players. They did not sign stars or anything like that. Now, I'm not saying all the guys that they signed were not great or were not good, but for the most part, we didn't get a lot of big names, especially for Justin Fields, right? You got Byron Pringle, Equanimous St. Brown, right? Lucas Patrick. So quality, solid guys, but not your stars. So we know Ryan Poles has stated during his initial introductory press conference that he is planning to build through the draft. Well, it is time for the draft, Ryan, so it's time to put your money where your mouth is, if you will, and build around Justin Fields through the draft. So how can they do that? Well, let's talk about the picks that they have, right? The Bears this year don't have a first-round pick, which obviously sucks, but it's even more imperative now to be able to hit on the guys that you take. Well, you've got 2 seconds, a third, 2 fifths, and a sixth, all right? Now, the more ammunition you have, the better. So if there's a way the Bears can acquire more picks, even better. Because here's the thing. Because you don't have a first-round pick, you have to be able to hit on the guys that you take in day 2 and onwards. Well, how do you increase your chances of hitting on a player? You go ahead and you take as many players as you can because of the picks that you have, and hoping, again, it's a numbers game, somebody pans out. So that's obviously option number one for them to be able to accumulate as many draft picks as possible, maybe even trade down more than they are right now in terms of what they have. Now, what I want the Bears to do to showcase that they will be building around Justin Fields is use at least 4 out of the 6 picks on either a receiver or the offensive line. All right, that's it. It's a numbers game, right? Because you've got 6 picks, and what would indicate to you that a majority of the picks have been used for the offense, especially for Justin Fields, so maybe a non-running back position? That would indicate that at least 3, but 4, because that would be more than 50% of the picks are utilized for the offense. And so I don't want to be drafting, pass rushers, linebackers, corners in the majority of these picks. I want to be able to draft receivers and offensive linemen. And this draft is deep at those positions. It is, okay? So how I'm kind of looking at it is, all right, you got 2 seconds, a third, 2 fifths, and a sixth, right? Well, you use a second on a receiver and a second on an offensive lineman, and then you use a third on a receiver and then a fifth on an offensive lineman. Like your 4 of your 6 picks, your top 4 picks should be used on receiver and offensive line, because those are the 2 most important positions that can help Justin Fields. And funny enough, they're 2 of the biggest weaknesses of the Bears. You protect Justin Fields by getting him an offensive line, and you help Justin Fields by getting him receivers that are good. So to me, that's the way. Now, again, in terms of the prospects themselves, we can get into that, right? This is a deep receiver class. You got, in terms of the day 2 guys, right? I'm not talking about the guys that I think are going to go in the top 10 or in the first round. So I'm looking at guys like George Pickens, Calvin Austin, Sky Moore, Jahan Dotson, even a Christian Watson, like guys like that, right? That's like more than enough guys that'll be available to you in day 2. I want 2 receivers and I want 2 offensive linemen. That will show me that you are committed to building around Justin Fields, because if you go ahead and you spend the majority of the draft building around defense and corner, etc., it just tells me that you are not fully committed to putting Justin Fields in the best position to succeed. That's what that tells me. So to me, again, I am optimistic. Well, let me rephrase that. Cautiously optimistic that Ryan Poles will do something similar to this because he has stated he likes to build through the draft. Now, a lot of you guys will say, Faiz, there's a lot of holes on this roster besides just receiver and offensive lineman. And I hear you on that. My rebuttal to that is I don't care at this point because to me, the most important thing for the Bears is the development of Justin Fields. And the best way, or even the quickest way for the Bears to get to becoming an elite team is for Justin Fields to become an elite quarterback. And so how do you do that? You put him in the best position to succeed. So to me, it's clear what Ryan Poles has to do. You spend 4 of your 6 draft picks on receiver and offensive line. Now, if they spend, the back end of this draft, right, like the 6th round pick on a right receiver or an offensive line, like that's just not as good, obviously. But coming out of this draft, if you stay put with where you are and the picks that you have, I want a majority of them, which is 4 out of 6, to be spent on receiver and offensive line. That's what I want, okay? Because to me, if you are building through the draft, this is how you do it, all right? This is how you do it because free agency is over and now you are obviously only using the draft at this point. That is your only other avenue. So that's what I would do, folks. I would do it. I'm telling you right now, I would. Let me know what you guys think about, what the Bears can do to build around Justin Fields in the 2022 NFL Draft. I think it's spending 4 out of the 6 picks on a receiver and offensive line. But that's just me. So let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment down below as always. Thanks for watching.